Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure to welcome you on this hybrid event of the Institute for Foreign Affairs and Trade. Today, we have the honor to have the Minister for European Neighbourhood and the Americas from the United Kingdom, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, Mr. Wendy Morton, with us today. And also joining her on stage, we have Secretary of State for Security Policy of Hungary, Mr. Péter Sztáray, joining us to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Hungary and the United Kingdom. And since we are a little bit behind schedule, without any further ado, I would like to ask Mr. Morton to have her opening remarks. Then State Secretary Sztáray will speak, and then we'll move to the moderated Q&A, which I will try to celebrate here. But I think this is going to be a very interesting discussion with lots of questions on the table, starting from the future relationship with the Hungarian communities living in the UK. So without any further ado, Madam Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. And first of all, let me say I'm delighted to be here in person in Hungary and to meet you all. And what an absolute joy it is after so long of being locked down, and to be here after a visit that I've been waiting to be able to do so long to your beautiful country. And thank you, of course, to everybody who's joining us today, including our online audience. I really do feel honoured to be a guest at this renowned institute to celebrate essentially our diplomatic relations. On the 22nd of May 1921, Hungarian diplomat Dr. István Hegyi presented his credentials in London and became the first representative of Hungary in the United Kingdom. And the following decades have seen challenges to our relationship, but today we are as close as we have ever been. In 1984, our then Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, visited Hungary, which was the first visit of any British Premier behind the Iron Curtain. And working alongside others, the UK supported Hungary with a total of £46 million from our Know-How Fund Technical Assistance Programme, launched in 1990 to help transition to democracy and free market economy access across Central and Eastern Europe. And today we are really proud to have stood with you to support democracy and free markets across the decade. And though we have left the European Union, the UK remains very much a European country. And our European friends and allies, like Hungary, will remain natural partners on many issues, including our shared cooperation on climate, biodiversity, security, and prosperity. And we're committed to renewing and strengthening our relationship with Hungary and all of our European partners. In our recently published Integrated Review, the document that sets out the UK's international strategy for this decade and beyond, we committed to remain deeply invested in the future of Europe. And this year will offer special opportunities to intensify our cooperation, including Hungary's upcoming Visegrad Group presidency and Council of Europe chairmanship, as well as through COP26 in Glasgow this November. And strengthening of our bilateral relations rests on three pillars. The first pillar is defence and security, where the UK and Hungary share a number of common interests. We continue to work hard to enhance bilateral dialogue and cooperation, and this includes joint work on cyber security, maintaining regional security, military exercises, more knowledge sharing and education, and on strategic partnerships. And one area where we are really keen to work together is the Western Balkans. Hungary has a lot of knowledge and direct experience in the region, and we have as well, but from a different perspective. And we both share the same aim, which is maintaining stability in the region, because it will still remain fragile. The second area we are focusing on is prosperity. Hungary and the UK are close trade and investment partners, and the UK imports more goods from Hungary, a country of 10 million people, than we do from Brazil, which is a country of more than 200 million people. And we are now Hungary's biggest non-EU trading partner, with bilateral trade flows of 5.7 billion euros in 2018, and 825 British companies providing jobs for some 54,000 people, making the UK the fourth biggest employer here in Hungary. And there are ongoing projects and plans for future bilateral cooperation in energy and automotive, decarbonisation, hydrogen economy, artificial intelligence, smart cities, clean growth, and e-mobility. And the third and perhaps most important area for our citizens is our people-to-people links. Hungary and the UK have growing ties at every level between individuals, businesses, universities, and civil society. And the UK now hosts the largest Hungary-born population outside of the Carpathian Basin. And before the pandemic, the UK was the biggest source of foreign tourists to Budapest, and the second biggest to Hungary more widely. And so for these reasons, I'm really optimistic that Hungary and the UK have a solid basis on which to strengthen our cooperation and friendship into the future, including on climate, biodiversity, security, and prosperity. If not also in European, in football or the Eurovision. As we look back, as we look forward to building back better in our COVID-19 recovery, we must consider this as a joint endeavour, working with our allies, including. And I'm confident that we'll remain strategic partners for many, many years to come. And that as we mark 100 years of bilateral relations, let us look forward to 100 more and beyond. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all today as we continue to build what I believe is a wonderful friendship. And I hope you all can agree with me that our shared future can and should be secure, prosperous, and free.
Thank you, Mr. Morton, for your opening remarks. And Secretary Sztáray, over to you. And I would also like to encourage our online audience to post their questions in time. I can already see them, so I'll ask them as soon as we enter the Q&A part. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. And I would like, first of all, I would like to express my warm welcome to Mr. Morton. I think it's very rare nowadays that we have a visitor in person. I hope this will change, but I really appreciate your courage to visit Central Europe under these difficult circumstances. And I think it's a good expression, actually, of the commitment of the UK after Brexit to our region, which I will dwell a little bit later. First of all, I have to say that we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of diplomatic relations. Of course, 100 years is a long period of time to look back. And as you mentioned, there were ups and downs in the relationship, but by now, I think we have the closest ever relationship in our history. And that is something that we want to maintain and what we want to continue and develop in the future. If we look back, of course, it's not only 100 years, it's more than 1,000 years. We have a lot of connections in the past, before the 20th century too. One interesting example for that is the great-great-grandmother of Her Majesty the Queen was Hungarian, Countess Claudia Ribery. And this is only one example, but there are many travelers, historians, marriages, architects coming to Hungary and being active here and leaving their legacy here. And there are many Hungarian scientists who went to Britain and who were active there and contributed to UK's success in science in other areas. And just recently in Britain's Got Talent contest, there was a Hungarian group actually winning the contest. It shows really how the nations can really appreciate each other's talent and results. Now, of course, we are in a brand new situation with Brexit, and as we expressed that on many occasions, Hungary regrets the UK leaving the EU, but of course, at the same time, we respect the decision of the people of Britain. And in this new situation, we want to find new ways of cooperation. We have some multilateral framework for that. One is NATO, which probably is the most important in that respect. We have the Council of Europe, where Britain is a member, remains a member, and is a very important member, I would say. Hungary will take over the presidency for half year just tomorrow in Hamburg. And there are bilateral channels. I think in the bilateral field, now we have to think about how we can build a new relationship. I think Britain has a lot of interest in having a strong connection to countries of Central Europe, including Hungary. This is also kind of bridge towards the south, towards the Western Balkans, and towards the east, towards the Eastern Partnership. So in that respect, in terms of stability, prosperity, economic relations, peace and security, I think there's a lot of common ground and common interest between our countries. At NATO, I can proudly tell you that Hungary is among the countries that will reach the 2% threshold, defense spending GDP-wise by 2024. And we have already reached the 20% procurement and development modernization threshold. And we count on more cooperation with the UK too. I think that would be another area of interest. And within NATO, our two countries have always been important protagonists of the Western Balkans cooperation in stabilizing the region, and I think we have to continue. It would be very, very beneficial if the UK would maintain its attention to this region, not only politically, but also through participation in different peace missions. And I think Hungary has an added value in that respect because of our vicinity to this region, and because of our historical and because of the experience of these countries. So we are very much involved in many countries here, and we are one of the loudest supporters of the integration of these countries. But this is also true for the other direction, to the east, where I think there's still a lot of volatility. And Hungary is a neighboring country to Ukraine, which is in a difficult situation right now, with a conflict in its east, with different other challenges. We have a strong Hungarian community in the far western part of Ukraine that we think that their rights should be preserved for the future, as they had a very standard platform in that respect before 2017. So we count on the UK to convince Ukraine that it's their interest, because their nation will be stronger if they assure the sufficient level of minority rights and women's rights. There are many other areas, and now I recommend we focus on the Visegrad for presidency of Hungary that will take over on the 1st of July. I think that will be again a good opportunity to have contacts. We count on high-level V4 plus meetings with many countries, but Britain would be one of these countries. So we will see how that preparation will evolve in the coming months. I think it's also very important that we work together on new types of challenges, again, in the area of security, like terrorism, anti-terrorism, and other areas like cyber disinformation, and other issues related to our resilience. This will be a very important discussion also at NATO now that we are approaching the summit, and then when we anticipate a decision on the update of the strategic concept. You mentioned the area of bilateral business relations. I think that's a very promising area. Hungary is putting great emphasis on exports, on foreign investment, direct investment coming to the country, and in that respect, the UK is the sixth largest foreign investor. The employment is about 55,000 people working in Hungary for UK companies, but it's much more in reality because there are other companies working for these, supplying these UK companies. I think that's quite an amazing figure. And some bigger Hungarian companies are also having business in Ukraine. We want to extend that relationship because the investment environment in Hungary is one of the best in the world right now. And I think UK companies have realized that advantage, so many of them come here and settle down with business. And one last aspect, which is quite a topical issue nowadays after Brexit, is youth mobility and student mobility. And there I see some stepping back a little bit, negative tendencies because of the new legal circumstances. We very much hope actually that more Hungarian students can attend UK universities of high quality. I think it's also a UK interest to receive talented students from Europe as such. So we hope that in that area we can make progress in future with some kind of arrangements, because in the new situation, economically, it's very difficult for many students to go there and to study there, and then bring back their knowledge, their skills, and enrich the world. So what we are very much satisfied with, that is the rights given to the Hungarian expats living in the UK and the UK expats living in Hungary. I think that's an exemplary solution for both communities, and we have to do that in the same spirit. So with that little introduction, I think I didn't cover everything, but I gave a picture of the positive aspects, that we have a bright future if we will come back. So your visit today is part of that endeavor, and I hope that more high-level visits both directions will support this, and we can even extend our relationship after the UK leaving the EU, but staying with us and not forgetting about Europe interests here in Central Europe especially. So with that, I conclude my introductory remarks.
Thank you, Péter Sztáray, for your introduction. And before we go to the Q&A session, I would like to ask Mr. Morton to quickly reflect on what has already been said. And also, I would like to raise an issue, which came up also last week when we came together with the 21st Committee with the Hungarian National Assembly with Ambassador Fox about the integrated review and the Western Balkans. And of course, we know that you cannot really have an excessive list of all the regions and countries of the world comes to the interest of Britain, but still, as the State Secretary has mentioned, this is an issue which is very close to us. I was wondering what will happen to the UK commitment to the stability of the Western Balkans. And as we know, the UK is still part of NATO, so we are not going anywhere, I might say that. But what we can expect when it comes to UK efforts to stabilize the Western Balkans, and what are the priorities of the UK after Brexit? Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's one of my reflections. Really one of so many areas that we have found interesting. The areas that we have been cooperating in. We have got a strong bilateral relationship, and I think very much I agree it's the time to really reinvigorate. And just in the conversation with two other months, actually, we've highlighted on things that have security and trade, people's people links as well. And so let's keep cooperating. I think it is bright. It is a bright future. So those are my kind of reflections, or maybe even reinforcements of some of the remarks that we both made. But turning to the integrated review, and I have touched on that. I mean, when it comes to the IR, that we abbreviated to, this really is the UK articulating its foreign policy, but not just its foreign policy, but our security, our national security approach as well. It's something that the first time we've done this in decades. It sets out a vision, it sets out the Prime Minister's vision around the UK being stronger, more secure, more prosperous, and resilient union as well, but with a global perspective. And I think when it comes to the greater detail in that, and areas such as the weapons involvement, I think it's important that we remember that the UK really is, we remain really deeply invested in the security and prosperity of Europe. NATO remains a really, the foundation of our defence. And our exit from the EU actually means we have the opportunity to follow slightly different economic and political paths, where it's in our interest to be slightly different and distinctive in terms of our foreign policy, but absolutely where we have the shared values and shared interests of EU about our EU friends, then it's in our interest to work together. And I see very much supporting the stability and the security of the European continent as a really important part of that, as well as cooperating on those other areas that I touched on in my opening remarks around climate and biodiversity.
Thank you very much. And just following up on climate and the green economy, question to Secretary Sztáray. Hungary has become very ambitious when it comes to climate change issues with the Hungarian president being very outspoken on that. And also the Prime Minister has mentioned it many times that using our platform of the European Union, we might want to initiate a change to the circular economy. And I was wondering that as the COP26 will take place in Glasgow later this year, what might be the Hungarian position on that, and whether we can use this as a platform to further enhance bilateral relations between Hungary and the UK.
Well, I think that's a very good opportunity actually to extend our cooperation in the area of green transition, because COP26 will be a great event, and the Hungarian ambition is really quite high. I agree with you. We have come a long way since 1990. We are among the countries which decreased their carbon emission the most in the past 30 years. And then we also realized that we have to go down that way and continue that activity. And because of that, we are putting a lot of emphasis on the nuclear, the peaceful use of nuclear power. And we want to use gas in the transition period, which is not perfect, but still better than carbon and others. So in that respect, I think we have a similar approach as the UK has, that your own energy mix can be defined by yourself only. And that's what we represent in the EU, that we should keep the sovereignty of the country in that respect, but with the clear aim that we have to conclude the green transition by 2050. And in that respect, I think the COP26 is an opportunity to look at this big picture of what's happening in Europe and in the world in that respect, and to exchange best practices, basically. That's also very important. And to look at how government and industry can work together on the green transition to make it quicker, but at the same time to keep competitiveness in the economy, because that's one of the cornerstones, that we don't want to rush without thinking through the whole package and using our competitiveness at the global market and at the global scale. So we have to look at the two aspects in this respect, and the Hungarian government is especially focusing on this, because sometimes we feel that some countries go too far in the way that they want to have the change very quickly, but without putting sufficient emphasis on the question of competitiveness. And this is a primary interest, I think, for both countries.
Mr. Morton, just a quick follow-up on this. What will be the UK's priorities for the Glasgow round and what we can expect as a result?
Look, I think the first thing is we want an ambitious COP in November, with good attendance. And I think we'll use opportunity a lot. I think it is an opportunity and a real opportunity post-COVID to really grasp this moment and to build back in a better way, build back in a stronger and a greener way. I also think that it's probably a really good opportunity for us to re-engage or engage with the younger generations as well and with the communities, because younger people have an interest in climate. It's in all our interests to think about the climate and think about the future. So I am sure we're going to have a very, very good COP in Glasgow at the end of this year.
Coming back to a very practical question, if I may, because of the pandemic, many travel restrictions have been put in place, and it was already mentioned that there is a significant Hungarian community in the UK at the moment. And I was just wondering, without, of course, any exact details, that whether we can expect some kind of agreement between the UK and Hungary to facilitate travel between the two countries.
I think that I am, as we discussed this morning, I'm really, really conscious of the links between our two countries. I'm also conscious that, for many families, COVID has been challenging on a whole number of levels, but one is the fact that it's been difficult to get back to see families and loved ones. I know people are wanting to travel again. It's important that we continue to review our travel information and our travel advice. And we continue to do that. I would be wrong of me to speculate, but it's important that we do in a measured way. We now have our traffic light system, but we do base this on evidence, on scientific evidence, and on a range of factors. But I think we all, personally, I look forward to the day when international travel is a little bit easier, but it is at the moment.
If I may, well, I think the UK has a very impressive level of vaccination. I mean, people, number of people, 70% maybe of society have already been vaccinated. But Hungary should not shy away either. We could be to quite a high proportion of people who have already been vaccinated, at least one. So I think we are the second in the EU. And that leads us to a thought that we should open. I wonder if you realize that in Budapest you can go to restaurants now, and it's the same in the UK. The Hungarian government's position is that we want to have agreements with as many countries as possible to make travel free. And we hope that we can have the same with the UK later on. I know that the WHO is working on recommendations on different types of vaccines. We use both the Western and so-called Eastern vaccines. I think as time goes by, more and more types of vaccines will be recognized by the WHO and by the European vaccine agency, the so I hope that by summer, it will be possible to have much freer ways of traveling between our countries. But we both have to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Free trade was mentioned in both of the initial remarks, and we do understand that the UK is trying to conclude as many free trade agreements as it can to get back on its feet after Brexit. And also Hungary has been very pro-free trade as an open economy. And since we are part of the single market, what we can do is very limited. But what do governments can do to enhance the economic cooperation between the countries? Some of that was already mentioned, I know, but are there specifics or what could be those areas, those sectors where we could work more closely together in the future?
I think when it comes to trade, I mean, we have good trade already, but I think there's always scope to increase that. I think yes, we are working through showing to other businesses that you know that there is a climate for investment. So you know, and I am convinced that there will be more trade opportunities out there for us to go out and find and build on them and look to the future as well. It's also around skills and emerging technologies and also making sure that we're looking ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think it's only partly the job of the governments to promote that, but Hungary too has a very active trade promotion policy. We have many tools to promote Hungarian business going abroad and attracting foreign investment here in Hungary. So I think that with the lowest corporate tax level in Europe, Hungary is very competitive, as I said. And in the past 10 years, and even more in the past 6 years, actually, when we merged traditional diplomacy with economic diplomacy in the same Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, under the leadership of Péter Sztáray, I think we have reached unbelievable results in foreign trade and in terms of investment. So we want to continue that until this government has a majority in parliament. I am sure that this philosophy will be implemented into practice in the future too. And there the UK will have plenty of different opportunities, UK companies. So governments have a role, but at the same time, of course, it's at the end of the day, it's business that has to come, that has to meet, and we are ready to facilitate that relationship. And then I'm sure that UK business will realize that it's worth coming here, and even more companies will come. And even more Hungarian companies will go to the UK, because that's a newer part of our policy, trade policy, that we want to have more Hungarian investments abroad. It's easier to facilitate, but it's not exclusive to other countries. Geographically, and the UK is, of course, one of the traditional partners in that respect.
Thank you. The next question is to you, Mr. Morton. The UK used to be one of the number one targets for Hungarians to work abroad because of the language barrier and because of the good overall state of the British economy. And of course, Brexit has changed that, because now border controls and immigration regulations have changed as well. And I was just wondering that what would you tell to a prospective Hungarian who would like to work in the UK, that what kind of skills are necessary, what are the requirements, and what they should be aware of if they would like to seek employment in the United Kingdom in the future?
That's a really good question. And the fact that we have, you know, a strong diaspora in the UK, that there are Hungarian living in the UK, shows those strong links that people go to study, some stay and worked, and so there are good links. My words, my advice to anyone is that there are still opportunities. We thought, you know, that just because we've come out of the EU and we look at our immigration policy in different ways, don't think that there aren't still opportunities based on skills. So I would say, you know, still look to the UK. We are still, you know, we've got a good relationship between our two countries. Let's continue with that. But the skills-based approach, I think that has to be the best way for individuals who are coming to work, those who are studying. I think it's in the interest of both our countries. And the key thing in these people who study and skills is, you know, quite often you want those skills to then come back to Hungary as well. So let's work it at both sides of that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sztáray, the UK used to be one of the best allies of Hungary in different European Union platforms, starting from the European Council to other different meetings and corporations. And as our Prime Minister used to say, they do miss the United Kingdom from the European Union. Is it possible to replace London? What can Hungary do at this point to preserve its values and vision for the future of Europe?
Well, I would say the UK is irreplaceable. And I agree with you that in those days when the UK was still in the EU, we were always very closely following what the UK thinks about specific issues, because the philosophy of the UK and the approach and political approach of the UK was very similar to ours. Having a lot of rationality, having a lot of positions based on interest in a way, but at the same time being constructive. And I think that gave a balance in the EU, which was beneficial to our countries, and within that for Hungary. And your approach in terms of your sovereignty and with regard to the balance of the different institutions and the capitals, I think that was something very exemplary for us. We have very similar views, if not identical. Now, in the new situation, you're right that there are new balances and imbalances in the EU, and we have to work on that. I think Central Europe can be one of the regions or entities which is getting strong enough to influence that balance or that imbalance that is occurring right now. And we are working on that. That's why we deem it so important to strengthen the B4 operation, for example. With the B4, if you look at the trade figures, for example, for Germany, trade traffic is much bigger than France-Germany trade. So that is a sign that with that comes both economic and political influence. And if we are consciously using that force, I think we can be a very constructive force, but at the same time can better represent our interests and represent the idea of the Europe of nations against the United States of Europe concept. So with that, I think I can just support your approach that the loss is big, I have to tell you, but in the future, as Central Europe is becoming the engine of European economy, and we are getting stronger and stronger, I think we will have sufficient leverage to influence decision-making in the right direction to keep that balance of the member states and institutions.
Thank you. We have a very specific question which came over the Zoom application, and of course it's to Minister Morton, and I trust you as a sitting member of Parliament that you can answer all kinds of questions. So it goes like that. The pandemic has obviously put a great strain on the British healthcare system, and how you can rebuild the capacities, and are there any possibilities for non-state providers like churches and other organizations to play a role in that?
That's an interesting question. When it comes to COVID, it's put governments under strain, it's put families, individuals, organisations. I think it's fair to say we've all felt the impact of COVID-19, and we're still working through it. We're not there yet, but I think we see the light at the end of the tunnel in the UK. 20 million people have been double jabbed now, the latest rate, and 57 million people in total have had their first vaccination. So we've got a good vaccination programme happening at the moment. Still, they're going through managing the COVID pandemic. So what opportunities are there in the future when it comes to healthcare? We've got a really strong NHS in the UK. We also have many other providers that provide healthcare. I'm not just talking about private healthcare. There are many other organisations and charities, voluntary sector that all have a role to play in providing the healthcare and support for individuals and for families. So I genuinely feel that there is a myriad of opportunities. If I put my local MP constituency hat on, I absolutely praise the tremendous work of our NHS in our local hospitals and our doctors, and I think to our vaccine hubs where we do education program. We've got NHS staff working alongside local government, working alongside many volunteers, and a whole range of groups, which shows how much we can do and achieve when we work together. We've also got many other examples of organisations, but in different ways that provide, a different style, additional help and support for people when they need it. So, I think as part of looking to the future, it's important. It's part of building back and better, isn't it? It's about, learning from the experiences that we've had throughout the pandemic, where it has put so much pressure on so many that I have been actually humbled and impressed, both actually, by the way so many organisations, churches, volunteers have stepped up to the plate to provide support and help to people when they need it, alongside tremendous work that the government's been doing as well.
Thank you. And the final question before we run out of time will be on Britain's future in Europe, but not within the European Union. We tend to focus very much on Brexit, but the UK remained a member of many organizations like the OSCE, NATO, and of course the Council of Europe. And as Hungary is taking over the presidency of the Council of Europe, I think tomorrow. Yes, thank you for the information. I was just wondering that within this forum, within this organization, is there anything that Hungary and the UK could do together in order to make Europe safer and a better place?
Yeah. Well, you're right. We're taking over the presidency tomorrow officially from Germany in Hungary. And there's a government decision on 5 priorities for this presidency of the Council of Europe, which some of them may be of direct interest in the UK. I mean, the first priority is the protection of rights of national minorities. This is a traditional Hungarian item. We cannot ignore this aspect because we have so many Hungarian communities in the neighborhood because of historical. I know the UK, the situation is totally different in the UK, so maybe it's sometimes hard to understand, but if you look back and if you look at the present situation, what I mentioned in Ukraine, it's really, even today, a very important and primary question of Hungarian foreign policy. So we put that into the forefront of our presidency because the Council of Europe is an organization which is creating norms, legal norms too, and which has a special interest in this area. So I think that the Hungarian interest and the Council of Europe interests meet each other. The second one is the next generation youth, how we deal with that. I think that's already more comprehensible to everyone. The third one is interreligious dialogue, which is very timely. If you look back the past few weeks, I mean, in many Western European countries, we saw anti-Semitic demonstrations and huge problems of different religions living together. So it's an intra-European question now too. I think it's more timely than ever. Then we have a fourth priority, which is about future challenges, including cyber and artificial intelligence and related issues. There, I think we can work very closely together because the UK is a leading nation in terms of policy and technical preparedness in the area of cyber, but also artificial intelligence and IT as such. And then the fifth one, I have to think that because oh my God.
Protection of the family.
That's part of the youth and the medicine. Ah, yes. It's, come on. Is anyone in the audience? I've been repeating this for weeks and months now. It happens. Okay, so the fifth one is also a very important priority. And I hope that with a successful presidency in the upcoming 6 months, we will be able to have bilateral discussions both in Strasbourg and through the capitals to work on these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morton, Cooperation in the Council of Europe.
I think I've made a real focus here that outside of the EU does not mean.
Sorry,
Well, the big one.
environment and green transition.
Oh, well, there we
Which is a
go. Of course.
Which is a horizontal subject, but it's of interest to everyone because of that too, and we discussed it a little bit earlier, so I think the UK has very important input there too. That's what I'm-
So from my perspective, as I've been saying, we left the EU, but we've not left Europe. And there are so many areas that we can and we will work together on. I see very much, that we've closed the chapter, one chapter of the book, but we've opened another chapter of the book. And that chapter is about working through organisations, through Council of Europe, or CE, on those shared priorities, on those areas where we have shared values. Climate is such a good example. So I'm glad you remembered that. That very last but certainly not least, is a good one, particularly in following on from COVID.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, our time is up. I would like to thank once again Mr. Morton and Stacey Péter Sztáray for joining us today to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Hungary and the UK. I do hope that the next 100 years will be based on these items of cooperation that we have listed throughout the conversation. Thank you very much also for the online audience for joining and for the excellent questions. Please have a look at our website and social media accounts for our future events. And we do hope to welcome you back once again to our institute as soon as possible. And I would also like to thank our panelists today for actually coming here, because we haven't been seeing so many people recently due to the pandemic, but hopefully these restrictions will be lifted soon and we can get back to normal. So once again, thank you, Mr. Morton and Stacey Péter Sztáray, for joining us today, and also stay safe, and we'll be in touch in the future as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.